Hey everyone, welcome to episode 301 of the All Dolphins podcast on this Tuesday, June 4th, first day of Dolphins minicamp. And man, was there a lot happening a little bit before practice, some during practice, and then after practice. Whoa. And we'll get into all that, including probably the biggest news of the day, I think, would have to be Tua's media session and as much as the word, also the whole tone. Two are not happy. Two are not happy.
Antsy.
Can't see. Yeah, because he didn't want to say pissed off. But okay, because there was so much going on, I'm tempted to skip the history lesson. So I'm going to do like a really speed version, though, because I do like those. And we can't skip over 2001 because it was a very good year for the Dolphins. They did make the playoffs. This was a year, of course, interrupted. Although, backtracking real quick, didn't start off very well in the draft because the Dolphins are the 26th overall pick. And there sitting for them at 26 was Drew Brees, who some in the organization loved, but they were overruled. And instead, let's go select a zone cornerback out of Wisconsin for our defense that plays man-to-man. Oh, and a defense that already has Sam Madison and Patrick Surtain. So let's do that instead. That's a better move. Let's draft Jamar Fletcher. Didn't work out well. Dolphins started their season. Of course, there were the events of 9/11. Came back. The game after 9/11 was one of the most memorable ever. If you were at the stadium on that day, the atmosphere was electric. Dolphins beat the Raiders on a last-second touchdown run by Jay Fiedler in the end zone, holding his fist like that with the ball in the other hand. Made the cover of Sports Illustrated. Dolphins wound up with a record. I don't remember what. And here's an interesting point. Lost in the playoffs against the Baltimore Ravens badly, 20-3. In a scheduling quirk, for those who ever have conspiracy theories, the NFL does not like the Dolphins. This, I don't know if it had ever been done before, and if it had been very, very distant. The Dolphins were forced to play late in the season before a showdown against the Patriots, who, mind you, that year won their first Super Bowl. They played a Monday night, followed by a Sunday, followed by a Saturday. Mm-hmm. That is something that I don't think it had ever been done before. And then the NFL said, you know what? We liked it so much, we'll do it to you again. And they did it again in 2002. Anyway, so Dolphins wound up 10-6, I want to say 11-5, lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, let's move on to today. Quick news before practice started. The Dolphins signed 5 of their draft picks. Everybody except the top 2 picks, Chop Robinson and Patrick Paul. While the Dolphins got $18.5 million of cap space this weekend after the release, post-June 1 release of Xavier Howard was processed, this had nothing to do with those signings, because those signings are below the top 51, and it's only the top 51 who count against the cap until the roster is trimmed to 53 for the start of the regular season. The Dolphins would not have had enough space to sign Chop Robinson, their first-round pick. I don't think they would have had space to sign Patrick Paul either. Now they do, of course, with the extra cap space, but I guess the Dolphins wanted to start focusing on the draft picks once they got the extra cap space. And then before practice, Mike McDaniel was asked about Tua and what Tua's participation would be, and it was basically McDaniel telling us he's going to do what he wants to do, kind of, sort of. What was your reaction at that time when you heard that?
I have no problem with it. Look, Mike McDaniel is a coach who has been very player-friendly on a lot of levels. Look, this offseason has been very player-friendly, right? We saw a bunch of guys who were at minicamp today. McDaniel said there's 100% participation, or attendance rather, but a lot of the key players were not out there participating. That was the same in OTAs. Mike McDaniel doesn't seem the type to have that iron fist and say, you will be out there, you will be on the field. I think that's a good thing because, quite honestly, I think a lot of this stuff is a waste of time and it's babysitting as opposed to getting football business done that couldn't wait until late June, earlier in July.
That's fair. And backing up what Chris just said, did I ever introduce you, by the way? I forgot to introduce you. By the way, I'm joined today by Chris Perkins of the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, back for a second consecutive day. It's going to be like Omar, dude. I don't know if I want to see you every single day. I'm just
Let's get some fireworks.
So shame on me for not having introduced you. But to back up what Chris said, Odell Beckham Jr. did not practice. Tyreek was there, did not practice. We'll get to Tyreek as well and his situation. Tua did only 7-on-7, and then we'll get into the possible significance of that. Teron Armstead was there, did not practice, as nobody should have expected. Jalen Ramsey was there and did practice, actually did a lot of work in team drills, as well as 7-on-7s. The guys we did not spot, again, running back Chris Brooks, I haven't seen him in the 3 practices open to the media. David Long Jr., we didn't spot eyeballs on today. Savon Ahmed, and let me look. I'm going to cheat look at my list here.
Mostert and Waddle were out there, did a little bit on the field.
Correct. Taj Washington, the rookie 7th-round pick from USC, was not out. We did not spot him. And Jaquan Burton, the rookie free agent from FAU, we also did not spot him. Nick Needham was out there. I don't know if he's got something going on physically. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, we all saw those guys attend the practice. So as we mentioned, go ahead.
Kader Kohu, we didn't notice him doing much out there. I don't think he did any drills. He was in uniform, as I recall, but I don't recall him doing any drills, any team stuff on the field.
Excellent observation. And as I recall, to correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was the same deal last week, where I don't know if there's something going on with him. But he also had an orange jersey as one of the practices that we saw. Maybe the first OTA that we
first, yeah.
So Tua doing only 7-on-7s. I know you don't have a big issue with it. I don't either at this time of year. Kind of sort of seems like it's a statement of like, I'm not happy. My contract has not been done yet, particularly since the Detroit Lions paid Jared Goff. I want my money too. And one of the quotes that stood out right now, probably folks have seen all the quotes from Tua. One of the money quotes is, the market is the market.
Yep.
I mean, that kind of says Jared Goff got that money. I want that money, at least.
Yep, I agree. And really with me, I'm wondering how long can Tua dig his heels in? He didn't do any 11-on-11. Does Tua take this attitude into training camp? And essentially telling the Dolphins, I know you got OBJ and you want to see Tyreek and OBJ and Waddle out there throwing passes with me. I'll show it to you in 7-on-7, but you don't get to work on it 11-on-11 till I get my new deal. I wonder if that would be Tua's stance, and if he would carry it out, if necessary, through joint practices, etc.
Yeah, and I would say his tone in this press conference was about what's the word I'm looking for?
Measured.
As aggressive. What's the word you used?
Measured.
No, see, to me, I thought he was like, I don't want to say combative is too strong a word, but he was like, it was clear the vibe he was giving off from the start was, for lack of a better term, he was pissy.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
He wasn't short, he wasn't terse, but I think he had a message that he wanted to convey. And that message is that while he's not pissed off or angry, he's definitely not happy with how the situation stands or the progress that it's made so far. So I think that's a fair interpretation. I don't think anybody would say that Tua was neutral. He was a little bit on the unhappy side, not deep on it, but definitely on the unhappy side.
Really? See, to me, Tua is always, and I was struggling. I wrote about Tua, and I was struggling to find the right word because I was going to say like jovial, and it's not the right word. Tua is always like very friendly, very pleasant, very quick smile. Yep. And today he was not that in the least. The first line of questioning was about the weight loss. And it was borderline, how much have you lost? I don't know, and I ain't telling you anyway. What did you do? What are you doing with Coach John Beck? It's the rubber band theory, and if you don't know what it is, I'm not explaining it to you. I mean, it was like very unlike Tua, who again is one of the most pleasant people you'll come across. And today he wasn't that. And then we got to the contract, and he wasn't. And we came into are you frustrated? Are you concerned? Antsy, pissed off? And I think the term he preferred using was antsy. To me, I don't want to speak for him, but I think maybe he didn't want to use the term pissed off, but he's pretty close to it.
If I'm not mistaken, somebody asked pissed off, because at one point Tua was there was a pause and somebody had asked him, how do you feel? And we were throwing out words, terms. Are you angry? Are you pissed off? And he would no, but he settled on antsy, which I believe Adam Beasley of Pro Football Network might have thrown out. And
free plug Beasley.
I know.
I appreciate it.
But as I said on the video that me and David Veronis did on Sun-Sentinel.com, to me,
that you're allowed. So you're allowed to free plug. Okay.
See that? See how smooth that was? To me, antsy kind of means unsettling, right? That I'm not comfortable in this position. It's antsy is, I don't know how this thing could go, but I want it to get settled. That's kind of what antsy is to me, and that's not where they want Tua for the season opener. I'll say that.
No, correct. And certainly, if anybody ever would give validation to a column written by a certain South Florida Sun-Sentinel journalist not too long ago about the Dolphins might want to think twice about having an unhappy Tua playing this season, I think the demeanor in the press conference was it. Because I don't know if I'm the Dolphins right now, if I'm a little antsy, to steal a word, about my quarterback and the frame of mind he's in. And of course, and the other side of it is, if your management, it's like, well, we're not all of a sudden going to give you everything you want just because you're antsy. Yep. And as Tua mentioned, that's part of negotiations. And I can't for the life of me, or I should say, I can't believe that the sticking point has anything to do with anything other than guaranteed money. Because I don't necessarily think the Dolphins, I'm sorry, Perk, I don't necessarily think the Dolphins would have an issue matching like the overall quote unquote value of the Jared Goff deal, but he got 177, 171 million guaranteed. This is where I could see the Dolphins getting, here it comes, antsy. Or queasy.
Or yes, Joe Philbin, baby. Those two terms are going to live in Dolphins lexicon for a while, right?
And queasy. There you go.
That's it. Look, here's the thing, though, Poop. Why do you think the guaranteed money might be a sticking point? Does it have to do with health or participation on Tua's part, do you think?
No, I would be tempted to think this is where the Dolphins are little queasy about his durability, right or wrong. And I know, the comments are going to come like, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert have missed more time than Tua. The fact remains it's Tua, and especially now with the weight loss, and you saw him like he was right next to us. He's not big, at all.
No.
And I'm of the opinion, again, that it wasn't the weight gain that kept him from being injured last year, and he was able to play 17 games. It was more, again, he got smart and it was never put himself in a precarious situation. But at some point he's going to take a big hit, and he's not built, and he's really not built to take a whole lot of big hits like that.
I think the weight loss is as startling as the weight gain at this time last year. However, I agree with Mike McDaniel, and we can talk about his contract stance with Tua and Tyreek later if we want. But, I'm with Mike McDaniel, and I think the strength is more important than the weight gain. And my personal thing, which I think everybody would agree with also, learning how to fall through the jiu-jitsu training is even more valuable than the weight gain or the strength. You don't think so? No, I think that, look, they taught him chin to the chest. And as soon as you feel yourself going down, and again, the Tua concussions were freak things in that he slammed the back of his head, especially the one against Green Bay. You're running forward, you get tackled from behind, and somehow you twist in the air and you bang the back of your head. Chin to the chest, baby. I think he's learned that. I think when you fall that chin to the chest, you're not going to whip the back of your head on the ground.
I know I'll buy that, Perk, answer me this. On that particular play and the play against the Bengals, you tell me with the force with which he was driven to the ground, he was kind of slammed sideways.
Mm-hmm.
If really he would have had the ability while he's being slung to go like this. And to me, I'm like, and to me, again, I would. And then the previous one also, did he have a shove last year? He was shoved, I remember, once or twice by an incoming linebacker after a play, but they were like end of the arms shoves that weren't anywhere near as violent as what Milano did to him in week 2 against Buffalo in 2021. So they weren't. And yes, it's very easy to connect weight gain, jiu-jitsu, and all that. But to me, it's more simple than that. He never got into any kind of those situations. No linebacker had a free run at him after a pass with a violent shove like Milano in 2021, and then nobody got him in a bear hug where they could body slam him to the ground like the Bengals and like the Packers. And this is partly because Tua got smart last year and gave up on plays.
I think the jiu-jitsu helps, but we aren't going to settle that right now. But
I think you'll have more people on your side than mine, but that's cool.
Well, I'll say this, Poop, is that I expect, I think it's going to be a challenge for Tua to play all 17 games this year. And I don't know what it would take for the Dolphins to be convinced about his durability, if it would be 15, 16, 14. I don't know what the threshold would be for me personally. But, boy, I don't expect him to play all 17 this year. I think at this point, I look at last year as an anomaly. I have to see it again. And playing 17, if he plays 15, I'm fairly convinced about his durability, the way starting quarterbacks go down nowadays. Play 15, Tua, and you've pretty much got me that you can have, I guess, lasting durability, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense. And the other thing about playing quarterback is because a lot of times you're going to be throwing with a lot of people around you, there's a major luck element involved as well, along with being durable. Is you can't help if one time you throw a pass and then on your follow through, you got an offensive or defensive lineman who's right next to you, and boom, your hand hits the top of the helmet and then you break a finger or something, you dislocate a finger. And that's just pure flukiness. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing, you can be as durable as you want. That's going to happen. The big question now, I would imagine it's going to be the same thing for the next two minicamp practices with Tua. He's going to do 7-on-7, and that's going to be it. I would imagine there's no reason for it to change. Yep. And then Tua was asked whether he was confident that he would get an extension before training camp, and his answer was semi-telling, where he says, "I'm confident I'll get an extension."
Yeah,
eliminating before training camp.
Yep. And then I agree with you. I think that's very telling. That's kind of the antsy part, right? He has no idea on the timing of this thing, and that's a little unsettling, worrisome. It stays on your mind. From Mike McDaniel's standpoint, he has said with both Tua and Tyreek, "I'm staying out of this. I'm a football coach." I think that's the right approach. What do you think? Is that kind of a buddy? Hey, I'm your buddy as well as your coach, or is that a smart, let's leave this business stuff up to Chris Grier in the front office?
No, absolutely. But he's got nothing to gain, because the thing is, he wants to maintain a good relationship with Chris Grier. He wants to maintain a good relationship with his players. And if he's not the final decision maker, he absolutely should be Switzerland. I mean, right.
I agree.
And then he also made a point saying, "No, I'm going to coach the players who are here," and that's absolutely the smart thing to do. But this is becoming, for those who were poo-pooing the absence for some of the offseason program, I think we have a situation on our hand. To be quite honest,
we do. And listen, Tua. You guys know my thing. I think they should wait to pay Tua until after the season. But I also like salty Tua. I like Tua standing up for himself. Players don't have leverage very often in their careers. Now, it's different if you're a starting quarterback. But Tua is using the leverage that he has, and I applaud him, and I like it, and I hope he continues to do it. Put the pressure on him, Tua. I eventually hope the Dolphins win, but I'm usually a player guy. So Tua, put the pressure on him and do all you can to get as much as you can.
No, fair enough. Yeah, that's what he's got to do. Okay, so now that's one contract situation. Jalen Waddle spoke to the media as well, and his contract situation is resolved very nicely for him. And then we had Tyreek, who, as one Twitter follower pointed out, why is there a contract situation? He's got 2 years left on his contract. Well, because the Dolphins didn't extend him this offseason when they needed cap space, and because his guaranteed money runs out after the season, and because now there have been other wide receivers who have gotten big contracts, and Tyreek wants some money. And I think Mike McDaniel suggesting that this is one, like before practice, that this is an issue of like almost load management. Mm-hmm. And I think you were like on the side of like, why take a chance in the spring? And to me, it's like, okay, it's May. You know what? If he pulls a hamstring in May, which would be highly regrettable, first of all, the odds of that are, what are they? And again, it's in June.
Yeah.
So, and Tyreek didn't do anything today at all.
Nope.
So,
listen. McDaniel is a player's coach. I think that a lot of this stuff at this time of year is unnecessary, and I think really why take that risk with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle? I mean, Jalen Ramsey was out there, but Raheem was out there. Waddle was out there. Why? If you're giving Teron the day off and you're giving OBJ the day off and all these other guys, and we don't know the reasons, but I would think that you at least gave Jalen Ramsey the choice and Raheem Mostert the choice. That definitely Raheem, the way you take care of him during the regular season. Hey, look, guys, do you want to be out there? Yeah, okay, cool. No, okay, cool. That's what I would. I just don't think that it's a big deal to be out here at this time of year. And look, I've said this many times, and at the owners' meetings, Chris Greer, I thought was going to jump me when we were talking to Chris Greer and his wife and Mike McDaniel and his wife, and I had the guts to suggest that there should be a workday time limit for these coaches, because 16-hour days are crazy. And I was saying in hours 12 through 16, you're probably not accomplishing anything because your brain is mush. And Greer, oh my goodness, no. And his wife was like, there's no way you can get this guy to keep from working 16 hours a day. But I do question the value at the end of the day when you're watching that video. How much retention do you have? And these guys, I know you're doing install now, but Poop, I would maintain that a lot of this stuff is as much babysitting as it is football, right? We have eyes on the players. It's the silly season. They aren't out at a marina smacking some boat captain because they're here. They're at camp. Like,
wow, you went there.
Listen, I think a lot of this is babysitting at this time of year. It should and could be eliminated. You report earlier in July, you're going to have better retention, all that kind of stuff. Give them the big vacation. The vast majority of them, nothing is going to happen. The vast majority of them, nothing's going to happen.
Okay. We discussed yesterday, I think, Tyreek's situation, so no need to rehash it.
I got to get a wipe here because I'm working with no AC at my place. We had to turn off we're having cooling tower repairs at my in my condo. So I'm working with no AC here. So yeah. All right, here we go.
No, you hate it when that happens.
I know.
So we'll see. I would severely think. Oh, and here a couple of quick comments I need to relate that Tyreek made, which were interesting. Was number one, what's the goal? The amount of money you make or finishing your career with the Dolphins. And then his answer was ensuring I'm a Dolphin for life. But then the very next question was, how important is it to you to remain like one of the top 5 highest paid wide receivers? And Tyreek was like, well, yeah. I mean, if I'm like the best delivery driver at Amazon and I do 100,000 deliveries and the guy next to me is doing 60,000, why shouldn't I get more? So, okay, well, dude, you may come down to it's going to be either or. It may not be that it's going to be both, because at some point, at some point the Dolphins are going to run out of, I don't say run out of money, but they're going to run out of cap space to pay everybody, no matter how vital it is. We've discussed this, and we both know we're both too. Tyreek is the most important piece on this team.
Yep.
But at some point, something's got to give, no?
Yes. And that was my column today was to Tyreek, as usual, or as often happens, I think is what I said, is talking out of both sides of his mouth, just with exactly what you said. Like he says the number one priority is remaining a Miami Dolphin for life, but then it's also a priority to be a top 5 paid receiver. Both of those might not be able to exist at the same time, because Waddle's getting money, Tua's going to get money, Javon Holland is going to get money. 2 years from now, Jalen Phillips is possibly going to get money. Everybody can't get paid. That's why Christian Wilkins isn't here. That's why X isn't here.
Robert Hunt?
I don't know. Tyreek is the single most important player on this team. But in 2026, when he's 32 years old and you're paying him $30 million, is that worth it? Is that fiscally wise? I don't. At this point, I don't think it would be. This is Tyreek, a future Hall of Famer, but I'm going to go wait and see and wait till the end of the season. I definitely wouldn't extend Tyreek before the end of the season.
Yeah, I think what he wanted to say was the number one priority is ensuring I'm a Dolphin for life, in parentheses, as long as I'm one of the highest paid wide receivers.
Right. And look, he's one of the best wide receivers, so yeah. I see his point. But, everybody's situation is different. His situation isn't the same as Justin Jefferson's situation or A.J. Brown's or whoever's.
Correct. Yeah. And again, I'll go back to the point where, last thing on Tyreek, if the Dolphins were really intent on giving Tyreek a new contract, I think they would have done it before A.J. Brown got his new money, before Justin Jefferson got his new deal, so as to not have to look at, going higher and higher. Okay, there was a practice today. I know we're doing all this contract stuff and pre-practice stuff and the signings of the draft picks. There was a practice today. Again, Tua did only 7-on-7, was threw the ball well, was very accurate. Again, it's 7-on-7. We know Tua's accurate. There was nothing that were overly surprising there. Anything stand out to you, either top performers, plays, anything you noticed?
There was a lot of stuff that I saw that I'm going to piss you guys off right now. There was a lot of stuff that we saw that we can't report. Who is deep on kickoff returns? Anthony Weaver with some blitz packages and personnel packages we hadn't seen. So I know. So the tight ends showed their athleticism and versatility. I can say that. So there were some things that we saw that I liked. As far as individuals, I thought Saran Neal was the special teams ace, was active from scrimmage as a cornerback. I thought that it was good to see Liam Eichenberg out there at right guard. I guess I can say that. I know Rob Jones out there at left guard looking good. I thought a lot of the linemen moved pretty well. Patrick Paul, it's hard to say. I don't recall seeing him in there for a lot of snaps, or Chop Robinson. Actually, I'm trying to think of the draft picks. Mo Camara had a sack. Yeah, well, I know, Poop, I know. I
know. Second, I'm not even sure he's the one who was a close. There was somebody else who was actually closer to him, but he was in the vicinity.
Yeah.
I don't know which player you're talking about.
Yeah. And then, what I said today was, Devon Achane had the touchdown reception, but overall it was a low key day for the running backs. River Craycraft had that juggling touchdown catch right in the corner of the end zone. But I think overall it was a low-key day for the receivers. I was kind of impressed. The tight ends, their versatility and athleticism. I think Durham Smythe might have had a decent play. That's about all the number 49 kid.
Aiden Ritchie.
Yes, right. I know. He had a nice reception, but I don't think that there was necessarily a single star of the day standout. But I did like what I saw from position groups and from I don't know if you would say play calling, but kind of strategy that we saw out there.
Okay. Yes, Saran Neal had a very nice pass breakup on pass over the middle. I'll tell you the things that kind of stood out to me. The notes I just did. A mini camp day one wrap up on si.com/NFL/Dolphins. Jonnu Smith had a couple of catches, including one that was a really low ball that he had to scoop up close to the ground. That was a really nice catch. You mentioned Rucci. Shaq Barrett had a play where he got around the left tackle very easily. The play continued as those things do. It was a completion to Braylon Sanders, but it would have been a sack in a game. Anthony Walker for the second time in where we've seen batted pass in the air. That time it wound up floating. Rookie free agent Isaiah Johnson came out from the side, dove to try to catch it before it hit the ground. Couldn't make the INT. Zach Sealer batted down a pass. Those were the things that stood out to me. And I had plenty of other notes, and of course I'm forgetting them because that's what I do. Talking about brain turning to mush. There you go. Exhibit A right here.
Yeah. But I think that from what we saw, and people will see this in training camp in 6 weeks or whenever training camp opens, I do have reason to believe that the coaching staff will think differently about using personnel this year as opposed to last year. That includes Mike McDaniel. We expected that with Anthony Weaver and Vic Fangio. There would be a difference, but very early indications today, we could see some different use of personnel. And I think Mike McDaniel said today in the press conference something to the effect of people expect the same old, but you're kind of limited by personnel. And I think he was talking about the tight end position specifically. So new personnel, new possibilities, perhaps some new usage.
Except one could make the argument, maybe not me, but one could, that he did have the personnel 2 years ago with Mike Gesicki, who is a good receiving tight end, and basically shelved them. I mean, doghoused them.
Yep.
Cam Smithed them.
Yeah. Ooh.
Sorry.
Wow.
Sorry, that was rude. But basically, I mean, he relegated to like a no role after the Dolphins had applied the franchise tag on him. And of course, I understand that because Gesicki can't block, and if he's in the game, it's a pass. And Jonnu Smith, at the very least, is a serviceable blocker. But he was one who impressed me, and it was good because the first time we saw him this spring, I like the Shaq Barrett play. First time we saw him this spring, and he did that. I like seeing Jalen Ramsey out there quite a bit. I can't tell you that he had a play that I really remember. Kendall Fuller also made his first appearance, at least to the media. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, well, one thing, I did ask Jalen Waddle, have you been on the field with Tyreek and OBJ yet? And he said no. When do they need to be out there throwing with Tua? Joint practice?
They have been throwing with Tua, but on the side, I know at least Hill and Waddle have. More so with Beckham, so he can work on the timing with him, but I don't know that that's a huge issue. As long as he's got the timing with each individual receiver, I'm sure Beckham has been learning the playbook, and I don't think I would make a big deal out of Beckham not having done anything so far.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Okay, on that note, that's going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. Much appreciated, my friend Chris Perkins of the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, who's got the Dolphins deep dive with Perk coming up. I want to say later this week, Friday. There you go. Read his stuff on sunsentinel.com. Programming note, I'm going to do a live episode tomorrow night at 7, digesting everything that we see and hear from day 2 of the Dolphin Minicamp. In the meantime, thanks again for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.